In a quiet little town nestled between soft rolling hills and whispering pine trees, there stood an old shop that many people passed by without truly noticing. Its wooden sign had faded with time, and the paint on the window panes had begun to peel, but inside the shop lived a warmth that no weather could dim. It was called Lumen's Candles, named after its owner, an elderly man with gentle eyes and a smile that always seemed to shine brighter than the lantern that hung above his door. Mr. Lumen had been making candles for as long as anyone in town could remember. He knew every scent that could soothe a tired heart, every wax blend that could create a calming glow, and every wick that could burn steady and strong. His hands were wrinkled, his step slow, but his spirit carried a brightness that seemed almost magical. Though the world outside changed, new shops with their bright signs and flashing lights, Mr. Lumen's little candle shop remained the same, untouched by haste and untouched by greed. People came in not only for candles but for comfort. And among all the candles that filled the shelves, one, in particular, held a story unlike any other. It was a simple candle, small, white, and unadorned. It had no fancy shape or fragrance, no colored wax or carved designs. Most customers overlooked it. But Mr. Lumen had placed it on the front counter with a care that felt almost sacred, as though he knew its purpose waited patiently for the right moment. One chilly evening, when winter winds crept through cracks and the sky hung low with heavy clouds, a young girl named Elara walked into the shop. Her coat was thin, her boots were worn, and her eyes held the kind of sadness that weighed heavily even on those who only glimpsed it. She had been wandering the streets for hours, trying to find something, anything, that could help brighten her mother's spirits at home. Her mother had fallen ill weeks ago. Their small house had grown colder, and the shadows that filled it seemed darker than ever. Elara had done everything she could, boiled soup when she found vegetables cheap, gathered firewood fallen near the woods, and stayed awake at night to listen to her mother breathe. But there was little money, and even less hope. She needed something warm, something comforting, something that could remind her mother that light still existed. The bell above the door chimed softly as she entered, and Mr. Lumen looked up with his usual warm smile. "Good evening, dear," he greeted gently. "You look like someone searching for a little light." Elara hesitated. She hadn't planned to buy anything, she barely had a few coins in her pocket. But something about his voice, soft yet steady, made her feel safe enough to speak. "My mother, she's very sick," she said quietly. "Our home feels so dark lately. I just wanted, maybe something small to brighten it. But I don't have enough money for anything special." She lowered her gaze, ashamed. Mr. Lumen studied her for a long moment, his eyes full of understanding rather than pity. Then he reached behind the counter and picked up the small white candle. "This," he said, placing it gently in her hands, "is the candle you need." Elara looked at it, confused. "But it's just a plain candle." He chuckled softly. "Ah, but not all gifts need decoration to hold meaning." She tried to hand it back. "I can't afford." "It's already yours," he interrupted kindly. "Some light is meant to be shared freely." Elara's eyes filled with tears she fought hard not to let fall. She whispered a thank you and held the candle close as she left the shop and stepped into the cold night. That night, the candle burned with a steady glow that filled their small home with comfort. Elara dozed off beside her mother, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't dream of fear or loss. She dreamed of warmth. The next morning, something miraculous happened. Though her mother was still ill, her eyes held a spark that hadn't been there in weeks. She asked for water. She asked if Elara had eaten. She even joked softly about how that tiny candle seemed to chase away the winter gloom. Days passed, and the candle continued to burn, long past what a candle of its size should have lasted. Its flame never dimmed, never faltered. It became a symbol in their home, a reminder that even in dark times, light had a way of finding its path. But word travels fast in small towns, and soon others began to notice the little miracles happening around Elara's home. Neighbors who had once been too busy to stop by started bringing food or firewood. Children from nearby streets left small notes of encouragement by the door. It was as though the candle had not only lit Elara's home but had sparked kindness in the hearts of everyone around. One evening, a fierce storm swept through the town. Trees bent under the force of the wind, and many houses lost power. Elara's home shook from the gusts, and the streets outside grew pitch black. She and her mother huddled together, the candle flickering between them. Suddenly, a frantic knocking sounded at the door. Ilara opened it to find their elderly neighbor, Mr. Tom, shivering with fear. "My lights went out," he said, panting. "I can't find my lanterns, and I've fallen twice already." Without hesitation, Ilara invited him inside. She placed the candle between them and helped him sit near her mother. Its warm glow filled the room, pushing back the darkness that clawed at the windows. Before long, other neighbors, frightened by the storm, found their way to Ilara's home. Parents with children, elderly couples, people from every corner of the street, all seeking light. And Ilara welcomed each one with the same open heart. The candle stood in the center of the room, its flame unwavering as dozens of people gathered around it. They told stories, shared food, comforted one another, and waited together for the storm to pass. And though no one said it aloud, everyone felt the same truth: the candle had brought them together. When the storm finally ended and the sun rose over the hills, people slowly returned to their homes. But something had changed. Neighbors who once walked past each other now exchanged warm greetings. Families began helping families. Children played with new friends. And Ilara's home became known as the house of the little flame that warmed an entire street. A few days later, Ilara returned to Mr. Lumen's shop. The bell chimed as she entered, and the old man looked up with that familiar, gentle smile. "I knew you'd come back," he said kindly. Ilara placed the candle holder on the counter. Inside it was nothing but melted wax, the final remnants of a flame that had burned far longer than it should have. "Mr. Lumen," she said softly, "that candle, it wasn't normal, was it?" He looked at her knowingly. "What makes something normal or special, child? A candle is only wax and wick. But the flame," he tapped a finger gently over her heart. "The flame is shared by those who carry light inside them." She frowned slightly. "But it burned so long. And it helped so many people." "Because you used it not for yourself alone," he said. "You shared its light. Kindness is like that. When shared, it grows. When given freely, it returns in ways we do not expect." Ilara felt tears rise again, but this time, they were warm. "Will it ever light again?" she asked, touching the empty holder. Mr. Lumen shook his head. "Its time is done. But that does not mean its gift ends. Look around you, the neighbors who now support one another, the warmth that spreads from house to house, the hope in your mother's eyes. That candle's flame lives on in every heart it touched." Ilara understood then. It hadn't been the candle alone that brought light, it had been the kindness it inspired. She started to leave, but Mr. Lumen called her back. "One more thing," he said, handing her a fresh candle, slightly larger, with a soft golden tint. "For the next time someone needs a little light." Ilara smiled. "How much do I owe you?" He shook his head, laughing gently. "Some light must always be free." She held the new candle close as she stepped back into the world, feeling warmer than she had in months. And from that day on, Ilara made it her mission to share its flame, sometimes literally, sometimes through kind words, sometimes through simple acts of care. People in the town began telling stories, stories of strangers helping strangers, of children comforting the lonely, of families opening their doors during hard times. And always, somewhere in the background, the tale of a small candle that once burned long enough to change an entire street lived on like a quiet legend. But the truest part of the story was this. The candle had not shared its flame alone. Ilara had shared hers. And though candles melt and wicks burn down, kindness, once given, lives forever, passing from heart to heart like a flame that refuses to die. For in every act of compassion, in every gentle word, in every moment someone chooses love over indifference, a little flame continues to burn. A flame that began with a single candle. A flame that still lights the world.